Ever wish you had a little more control over the script of your life? That you could somehow shape the events that unfold around you? Well, it's a pretty universal feeling, and it leads us to a really fascinating question. Can your thoughts actually change your reality? So that brings us to this whole concept of manifestation, a set of ideas all built on one big premise, that our consciousness is the primary force shaping our world. In this explainer, we're going to dig into where these philosophies come from and what they're all about. Our journey starts with a simple but honestly a really radical idea from a 20th century mystic named Neville Goddard. His entire philosophy can pretty much be boiled down to one powerful instruction: assume your wish fulfilled. Goddard's core teaching is what he called the law of assumption. The idea here is that consciousness is the ultimate cause, and the physical world, that's just the effect. Your reality is basically a mirror of what you assume to be true, deep down. So, the crucial point here isn't to fight with your current circumstances. Nope. Instead, you've got to change your assumptions first. According to Goddard, if you really persist in a new assumption, your world has no choice but to reshape itself around it. So, how is this all supposed to work? Well, according to this philosophy, the key is to get past your critical thinking mind and impress your desire right onto your subconscious. The subconscious is seen as this creative engine room. It doesn't judge, it just takes your deepest feelings and beliefs and builds your reality from that blueprint. And Goddard even had a specific technique for this. Right before you fall asleep, when you're in that drowsy, super relaxed state, that's the time to act. The goal is to feel the reality of your desire. Don't just picture it, feel what it's like to already be in that state. Then you just loop a short phrase like "thank you" or "isn't it wonderful" over and over until you drift off to sleep completely soaked in that feeling. Okay, now let's see how this basic idea gets built into something even more complex. We're going to turn to the work of a writer named Vadim Zeland and his concept, which he calls reality transurfing. Now, Zeland's model is a little different. He suggests we don't necessarily create reality from scratch. Instead, picture this: an infinite information field that contains every single possible version of your life. Zeland calls these different paths lifelines, and he argues that your thoughts and your feelings are what tune you into the lifeline you're on right now. And this is where Zeland makes a really key distinction. On one side, you have inner intention. That's what we're all familiar with, right? Pushing, struggling, trying to force an outcome. But then there's outer intention, which he says is the real power. That's about calmly choosing the reality you want, getting your heart and mind on the same page, and just allowing that reality to unfold. But Zeland's model isn't all smooth sailing. It also includes these unseen forces that can knock you off your chosen path and just drain your energy. He calls them pendulums. So what are pendulums? Think of them like massive thought forms created anytime a group of people thinks in the same direction. We're talking political parties, corporate cultures, intense sports fanaticism, you name it. They don't have a mind of their own, but their one goal is to survive by feeding on the emotional energy of the people hooked into them. So how do you handle them? Well, Zeland says you absolutely do not fight them, because getting angry or frustrated just gives them more of what they want, your energy. Instead, he offers two ways out. First, you can let it collapse. Just calmly acknowledge it's there, but then pull your emotional energy away by losing interest. Or second, you can extinguish it. Basically, break its script with some weird, unexpected action that throws it off its game. Okay, so you might be wondering, how does any of this stuff supposedly work? Whether it's assuming a state or choosing a lifeline, proponents often look to the super weird world of quantum physics for an explanation. The parallel they like to draw comes from something called the observer effect. In quantum mechanics, a particle can exist in a whole cloud of possibilities at once, until it's measured or observed. Then it collapses into just one single state. The argument then is that our own consciousness is the observer, picking one reality out of that infinite field of possibilities. It's a really cool and powerful metaphor, right? But, and this is a big but, it is absolutely crucial to say that this interpretation is highly controversial. Mainstream science does not support the idea that our consciousness, all by itself, collapses quantum waves or chooses realities. It's an interesting philosophical leap, for sure, but it is not accepted science. But here's where it gets fascinating again, whether you buy the quantum stuff or not. These practices have uncanny parallels to well-established techniques in modern psychology that are proven to improve your well-being.
For instance, that trans-surfing idea of catching your negative mental slides and replacing them with positive ones? That sounds an awful lot like cognitive restructuring. It's a core technique in cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, where you learn to spot and reframe those distorted thought patterns like catastrophizing or all or nothing thinking.
And it's the same story with the huge emphasis on feeling positive emotions. It lines up perfectly with a ton of research. Studies have shown that simple practices like keeping a gratitude journal have measurable real-world benefits: better sleep, more optimism, and a real lasting boost in happiness.
So this brings us to a really solid takeaway. Regardless of the mechanism, whether you think it's quantum, metaphysical, or purely psychological, the act of consciously directing your thoughts and cultivating a certain inner state has a powerful documented effect on how you experience your life.
And that leaves us with this final, big, thought-provoking question. We may not have all the answers, but diving into these ideas really forces us to wonder, what is the true relationship between our own consciousness, what we believe deep down, and what we ultimately experience as our reality?